Hi everyone, it is me, your least favorite Drag Race content creator, Jer, here with some continuation videos. I posted something very recently which you haven't already seen. It should be in the playlist that is going to be associated with this video, so go and check that out if you're curious where all this is coming from. That video was me talking about how I would restructure all of the all-stars of Drag Race with the existing casts and shuffling them over to make them more synergistic, make them more balanced, and overall make the seasons feel a little more fun for me as a viewer. There were a lot of comments that I got, more than I anticipated, of people asking for me to judge that season and talk about how I thought they would flesh out. And so with some peer pressure, I have been goaded into doing so. So that is going to be what this multi-part series is going to be. Keep an eye out for each one of the videos. I'm going to try and have them come out successionally. Is that a word? Yeah. This video is going to be covering All Stars 1. Before we even jump into this little prerequisite, these are going to be based off of my personal tastes and preferences. I sometimes like to make videos talking about how I think the seasons would have gone, but I don't know if it's always productive for me to speak on behalf of others. So I'm going to be doing it off my preferences and how I would have judged each one of these seasons. So if you don't like that style video and you want some fantasy universe where someone is going to speak directly for someone who is eliminating queens, feel free to go and find one of those videos out there, but this is my opinion. If you do not like that opinion, that is fine, but you better keep your nasty comments to yourself because I am not your personal punching bag. Without further ado, let's jump into how I would have judged All Stars 1 of this universe. So just as a refresher, in case you did not see that original video, this is how I ended up restructuring all of the seasons in a way that I thought would make them a little more synergistic. Our very first season's theme is team synergy, so I tried to put people together that not only would be synergistic together, but would also make great television. When I made this group, I did put a bulk of season 3 girls, and there is a reason for that. The season 3 queens have almost no synergy with any of the other seasons, as we saw with Mariah, India, Yara, and Shangela on each one of their respective all-stars, that they just don't really get along with a lot of other cast girls. I think the season 3 personalities were so massive, and that has not changed all of these years off the show. They don't work well with others. They work well with each other. So I wanted to put them all in a season together that made the most sense for them, which was teams. And as my final note, there were a couple people that asked who I would have brought into this season on my own accord. And if I was not relying on all the pre-selected queens that were already in the All-Stars roster, personally, I would have replaced Mimi and India. I don't know if I would have cast either one of them in an All-Star season. For this one, I would have certainly cast Akasha and Sahara with the intention that they would be the queens paired up with each other. That way we could have some really fucking excellent black excellence on this season. This would have been the year before Sahara passed, so she would have been able to film but would not have been able to see it, unfortunately, but at least we would have had it. And I would have also included Willem and Dita, also sort of anticipating that they would be a team together. They've said that they had a lot of good rapport with each other while on set, and I think that that would translate to some really cool drag concepts. Another question that was asked that I will be addressing in every video going forward are who I thought producers would pick from these groups, and I think that the ones that would get a favorable edit and would get pushed by producers would be Chad, obviously. I think they were really jonesing to crown her. I think that All Stars 1 was maybe constructed so that Chad could win. I think that Raven had a really strong showing from last time. I think that she would get a pretty good push. And I think that Shangela of this group would get a pretty heavy push. Anybody that was paired with those three, I think, would get favorable edits. So let's jump on in to episode 1, It Takes Two. And just as a refresher, this is an episode where they had to do photo shoots where they put each other in looks that were sort of opposites attract, and they had to do a half-baked drag look. This was a really strong showing for the season, and I think it was an interesting way to kick off this All-Stars. So let's really quickly discuss the teams. I think that in any universe, Chad and Chanel would pick each other first. They really needed each other this season, and I don't think they would have worked well with anybody else. I see it in the stars for Angina and Nina as two really powerful concept performers that I think they would work well together, plus being seasoned sisters, they would be drawn to each other. Juju and Raven are a match made in heaven, and they think they would always pick each other. Your Alexis is pretty much a given. Shangela and Mariah make the most sense to me as fellow boogers who seemed pretty close on season 3. And then India and Mimi have a lot of great story value that I think they would be a strong and fun television team. Maybe not going incredibly far though. So I think conceptually, Chad and Chanel really hit a road bump episode 1, and I think they would fall to the bottom once again in this universe. I see a world where Shangela and Mariah really kill that very first challenge, with Shangela being a little more of a workhorse dance queen, Mariah leaning into her ballroom culture, and I could see them actually taking the win from Rujubi in this setting. Not that Juju and Raven were bad at all, because I do think they were excellent. I just think that maybe Shangela and Mariah would be able to have a better showing. As for the other bottom queens, I think that India and Mimi would have a very short-lived storyline. There's only so much you could do with that, and I think anybody that would be paired with Mimi would not have done great, and so I just don't think that this would have gone over very well. With that being said, I do believe that Team Shad would knock out our Team India and Mimi, which I have named Mindia. And that brings us to episode 2, RuPaul's Gaffin. I need to put this out there that I hate this challenge. I think this was an interesting way to tackle Snatch Game, but ultimately was kind of a fail. So now that that's out of the way, I need to make a couple of big swings about characters that would be played, because I'm certain that they would be different for some of the queens like Shangela, because we don't know what she would do. We don't know what Angina would do. And who knows where Mariah would have gone with Shangela being so funny and good at improv. She would need to play a bit more of a straight man character, but I worry that she would buckle like how Chi-Chi did in All Stars 3 when she worked with Shangela. So for me, I think that Yarlexis would sweep this challenge, with Shariah being a really close second place. In my opinion, I did not love Team Shad in this challenge. I didn't like really what either one of them did. I also didn't love what Raven did specifically. I also do not imagine that Ninjina would do spectacularly in this universe. My personal preference would be Shad in the bottom, because I collectively didn't like either of their performances, whereas I really enjoyed Jujubee only, so at least half the team scored higher for me. Therefore, Chanel and Nina would happen in a lip sync, and I'm inclined to believe that Chanel would devour, meaning that Ninjina is unfortunately out. And that brings us to the world's cringiest challenge that has ever happened on Drag Race. The secondhand embarrassment I feel from this challenge alone makes me want to vomit, but let's try and picture how it would go. So I see Shangela, Chad, and Jujubee as the very clear tops, while pretty much everyone else is going to struggle. I see Shad getting their uptick in the competition, whereas it's finally time for Rujubee's star to start its descent. I don't see Mariah being steady enough in this challenge to keep their team points high, and I think that would land them in the bottom with Rujubee. This is interesting because the song was nasty, and between Jujubee and Shangela, who would likely be selected to lip sync, I see Jujubee losing this lip sync, meaning that Rujubee is out. However, this season requires a double save as we have a top 4. So instead of using it later, I'm actually going to use it now because I'm not quite ready to see Raven and Jujubee go home yet. So that brings us to episode 4, All-Star Girl Groups. I have some pretty spicy opinions of this particular challenge, and that's that Yarlexis deserved the win. I think they were robbed in the original season, and according to my tastes, which that's what this video is about, I would make them the winners. Team Shad as a whole was not strong in this challenge. It really was all Jillian, in my opinion. And Raven and Jujubee did have a problem where their girl wasn't really in drag, but I thought they performed well and cohesively as a team, and their lip sync was my favorite of the evening. I think Shariah would struggle Mariah more specifically, and I'm not sure if Shangela would be able to temper her star power in a performance challenge like this to not steamroll whoever their girl was and Mariah. So I see Shariah in the bottom with Shad. Rujubee is going to be safe because I thought their performance was good even if it wasn't perfect. In my opinion, Shangela would body Chad or Chanel in that Don't Ya lip sync, meaning that surprisingly Team Shad is now out. So that brings us to dynamic drag duos. And someone is going home this time, ladies. This was the best challenge of All Stars 1 in my opinion, and I wish it was on episode 1 instead of a finale episode. I think it was always going to be a top 4 with this particular season since it was so short. That's why I put that double save earlier and wanted to preserve as much of the integrity of the competition as possible. In the original episode, I think that Rujubee were much stronger than Team Shad, and I think they should have won over them. This time, Yarlexis is here, and I see them doing something utterly insane, crazy, cuckoo, cunty, and winning. Whereas I don't know if Shangela and Mariah would have such an excellent concept. And I know I just said that Raven and Jujubee deserve the original win, but I really do feel like in this particular season that Alexis and Yara would have turned something really cool out. So between Jujubee and Mariah, because I think it would finally be time for Mariah to lip sync, I think that Juju would absolutely dominate, meaning that Team Shariah is now out. So our top 4 soloists are Jujubee, Raven, Yara, and Alexis. So now let's talk the grand finale. I'm gonna be so honest, my bias in this group is Alexis Mateo. I think she's one of the strongest queens in the franchise because her Venn diagram of good at drag race, and good at TV all intersect each other. There are some that are really good at drag. There are some that are really good at drag race, and there are some that are just pure entertainment. I think Raven is someone who is really good at drag and really good at entertainment, but not good at drag race. I think Yara is someone who is really good at entertainment and really good at drag, but not good at drag race. I think Jujubee is all of those. I think that Alexis is all of those. Raven is really strong from this group, but overall I was more impressed with Jujubee at each challenge. Yara is a powerhouse of drag, but her lane really is only running through being good at drag. She's not very good at the race portion, and she second guesses herself a lot, runs out of gas, swerves around, gets out of her lane, but goddamn is she entertaining as hell. The top 2 that I would want to see in this particular finale would be Jujubee versus Alexis Mateo, because I think their performances this season were immaculate. So in this universe, get your keyboards ready to be mad for the very first All-Stars season. My season 1 winner would be Alexis Mateo. I know y'all are gagged, gooped, and gaping right now, but that is who I would choose. And with that, that is the end of All-Stars Season 1. Where do you think that everyone would have fallen in your opinion? And just know, if this were judged by RuPaul, it would have gone very different. I see Raven and Chad lip syncing in a RuPaul judge season, but in my opinion, I don't think that this was Chad's best showing, and I certainly don't feel like other queens were doing as bad as producers and editors tried to make us think, because I have eyeballs and I liked what a lot of the other queens were doing over what Team Shad was doing. Keep an eye out for All Stars 2, as that will be coming up very soon. And remember, if you hate this video, y'all wanted to know my opinions. It's not that serious, it's all fake. See ya for All Stars 2. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.